The blue and red lights pulsed across my driveway like a heartbeat gone haywire, casting eerie shadows on the neatly trimmed lawns of Willow Lake Estates. It was one of those quiet suburban evenings in our Midwestern neighborhood, where the air smelled of fresh-cut grass and the distant hum of lawnmowers usually signaled peace. But not tonight. Susan Hayes stood defiantly in the middle of the street, one hand anchored on her hip, the other wildly gesturing at the approaching police cruiser as if she were commanding an army. "Officer, over here. Tow his truck right now," she shouted, her finger stabbing accusingly at my weathered blue pickup, parked innocently at the curb right in front of my modest ranch-style home by the shimmering Willow Lake, the heart of our community, where families picnicked on weekends and retirees fished at dawn. My chest tightened like a vice as the cruiser eased to a stop. The officer, a middle-aged man with a steady gaze and a uniform that spoke of routine calls like this, stepped out and flicked on his flashlight, even though the soft, golden hues of twilight still lingered. Susan didn't waste a second, launching into a frantic monologue that drowned out the gentle lapping of the lake waves. He outright refused to park where I instructed. "He's completely disrupting the aesthetic flow of the street. We have strict standards in this HOA, all about maintaining property values." She snapped her fingers impatiently, as if ordering a drive-through meal, her voice echoing off the cookie-cutter houses lining the block. The officer raised a hand calmly. "Ma'am, let's handle this one step at a time." He turned to me, his expression neutral. "Sir, is this your vehicle?" I nodded, keeping my voice even despite the adrenaline surging through me. "Yes, officer. It's parked legally in front of my own house, not blocking any hydrant, driveway, or sidewalk. I just wrapped up a grueling shift at the local auto parts store downtown, hauling heavy crates of engine parts all day. My back throbbed like an old drum, and all I craved was to slip inside, kick off my work boots, share a quiet dinner with my wife Sarah, and scratch behind the ears of our loyal golden retriever, Buddy. But Susan, our self-appointed guardian of neighborhood perfection, had decided otherwise. She shoved a crumpled printout into the officer's hands. "Look at this. The HOA parking map clearly shows designated curb zones. He has to move it 2 blocks over to Maple Lane, near the cluster of mailboxes. It makes the whole street look cleaner, especially for our community photos and open houses." The officer skimmed the paper, then surveyed the serene street, the lake glistening under the setting sun, a pair of mallards drifting lazily on the water, neighbors beginning to peek through parted curtains. The sky was a canvas of peach and lavender, everything peaceful except Susan's face, which burned red with indignation, like a pot about to boil over. Just then, a white SUV emblazoned with the Willow Lake Estates HOA logo, complete with stylized blue waves and a sturdy oak tree, pulled up behind the cruiser. Out stepped Mr. Jenkins, our HOA president, a retired accountant in his 60s with a neatly pressed gray jacket and a no-nonsense demeanor. Trailing him was Ms. Garcia from the compliance department, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s clutching a leather binder stuffed with color-coded tabs. They approached with the gravity of judges entering a courtroom, and I felt a knot form in my stomach. Was this about to escalate into something bigger, like a full-blown neighborhood feud? "Evening, folks," Mr. Jenkins said, his voice measured and authoritative. "We got a call about a potential parking violation." Susan's eyes lit up like she'd won the lottery. "Finally. I've been trying to uphold the beauty of this place for months now." I swallowed hard, feeling Sarah's hand slip into Minesh quietly joined me on the porch, her presence a steady lighthouse in the storm. "Jack," she murmured, "just tell the truth and take deep breaths." Buddy sat at her feet, letting out a soft, anxious whine, his tail thumping uncertainly. The officer acknowledged Mr. Jenkins with a nod. "If there's an enforceable HOA rule here, we'll need to verify it." Ms. Garcia opened her binder, flipping past tabs labeled Parking, Landscaping, and Conduct. The street fell eerily silent, broken only by the rhythmic slap of waves against the rocky shore. Susan folded her arms triumphantly, her gaze boring into me. I could feel the weight of every neighbor's eyes. Would the scales tip in my favor, or would Susan's relentless campaign for perfection prevail? Ms. Garcia looked up after a tense moment, her voice clear and professional. "According to the official Willow Lake Estates bylaws, Residents are permitted to park along the curb directly in front of their property, provided it doesn't obstruct driveways, fire hydrants, mailboxes, or occur on scheduled street sweeping days. My heart leaped, relief washed over me like a cool breeze off the lake. Susan's smug smile cracked like thin ice. That said, Ms. Garcia continued, tapping the page thoughtfully. There's a general courtesy guideline for special events or maintenance periods. But nothing in here requires relocating a vehicle 2 blocks away for aesthetic reasons. The officer turned back to Susan, his tone firm but polite. Ma'am, does this constitute a legal violation? Susan's mouth opened and closed like a stranded fish. It's just ugly. It throws off the entire curb line. I explicitly told him to move, and he refused flat out. The officer didn't crack a smile. Directing neighbors on legally parked vehicles isn't a police matter. We don't enforce personal preferences or curb appeal disputes. Mr. Jenkins cleared his throat, his eyes shifting between Susan and me. Here at Willow Lake Estates, we prioritize community harmony. We encourage residents to be considerate and communicate kindly with one another. But Susan wasn't done. She stepped forward, arms flailing dramatically. Then find them both. Fine him for improper parking, and fine the HOA for failing to enforce basic standards. I demand a tow truck here immediately. The officer tried to interject, but Susan's voice climbed higher. If you won't act, I'll escalate this to the county sheriff. As chair of the beautification committee, I have the authority. By now, the scene had drawn a crowd. Neighbors spilled out onto their porches. Mr. Thompson from next door, still clutching his evening coffee mug as if he'd forgotten about his supper. Mrs. Wilson from the corner lot, steadying herself on her walker with a mix of curiosity and concern. A group of kids on bicycles skidded to a halt, whispering excitedly. The entire block was now an unwilling audience to this escalating drama. Ms. Garcia snapped her binder shut and met Susan's gaze head-on. Susan, you do not have the authority to order residents around on compliant parking or to summon law enforcement for non-emergencies. That's not how our community operates. Susan fired back. So you're saying he can just derail our beautification plans? Our neighborhood Instagram page needs pristine curb lines. I circulated a detailed layout to everyone. Ms. Garcia responded evenly. You circulated it, but the board never voted to make it mandatory. My breathing slowed as the tide turned. Sarah's hand relaxed in mine, and Buddy's ears twitched, sensing the shift. The officer handed back Susan's printout to me. Sir, I see no laws broken here. You're free to leave your truck as is. Susan let out a sharp, frustrated exhale, like air hissing from a punctured tire. You'll all regret ignoring this, she muttered, her eyes darting accusingly at the group. Mr. Jenkins held up a hand. That's quite enough, Susan. Ms. Garcia reached into her bag for a smaller booklet, the HOA Conduct Guidelines. Our rules explicitly address the misuse of city services and the harassment of fellow residents. The words hung in the air like a storm cloud about to burst, heavy with implication. A chill ran down my spine. Was this the turning point where Susan's overreach finally backfired? Flashback to earlier that afternoon. The lake had gleamed under a clear blue sky, a picture-perfect slice of American suburbia. I'd been lugging paint cans from the garage to our living room, planning to refresh the walls in a warm beige that reminded me of sandy beaches. Sarah hummed an old folk tune while taping off the baseboards, and Buddy followed me faithfully, his tail wagging in hopes of a dropped snack. At noon, I ran to the store for more brushes, noticing Susan out with her measuring tape and clipboard, scribbling notes from curb to curb. She shot me a narrow-eyed glance as I parked out front, carefully checking for clearances, but I thought nothing of it. 5 minutes after unloading, the pounding knock came. Susan, without so much as a hello, demanded, "Move that truck immediately. We're implementing aligned parking for a cleaner vista. Relocate to Maple Lane so the lake view stays unobstructed." I paused, wiping sweat from my brow. "The street looks fine, Susan. I'm not in anyone's way." She clicked her pen aggressively. "This is for the greater good. Visitors expect tidy lines. It elevates our home values. The bylaws say I can park here," I replied, trying to stay calm as heat rose in my face. "I've got heavy supplies to carry. I'll be done soon." She leaned in close, her voice dripping with condescension. If you don't comply, I'll involve the authorities. Consider this your final warning. I chose kindness despite the provocation. Susan, maybe we can discuss this with the board together. But the police won't intervene on something legal. She stomped away, already punching numbers into her phone. Inside, Sarah gave me that knowing look. You handled that well. I think she's just stressed, I said, forcing a smile. Peace is worth more than pride sometimes. But deep down, I knew standing firm against bullies was crucial too. We resumed painting, sharing light-hearted jokes to ease the tension. Buddy curled up in the doorway, snoring contentedly. For a brief moment, the world felt normal. Then the siren blurred a short, sharp burst that shattered the calm. Back in the present, as the officer wrapped up, a tow truck rumbled onto the scene, its yellow lights spinning like a carnival ride gone wrong. It stopped near the community entrance sign, which I now noticed was splintered and leaning crookedly, as if recently struck. The driver hopped out, clipboard in hand, looking puzzled. Got calls for a blue pickup tow and a damage report on this signpost, same name on both. Who's Susan Hayes? The street pivoted towards Susan, her face draining of color. The officer questioned her. She stammered about reporting violations separately, but call logs from dispatch, checked on the spot, tied both to her within minutes. The crowd murmured like wine through leaves. Ms. Garcia mentioned the new entrance camera, pointing to the discreet black unit on the stone pillar. Susan's swallow was audible. I know the rules better than anyone. I am on beautification. The officer clarified. Knowing rules doesn't grant you power to abuse services. The tow driver scratched his head. Towing or not. Got other jobs. The officer waved him off. Mr. Jenkins stepped in. Per bylaws, we can issue citations on site for observed misuse. Susan's color returned in a flush of anger. Fining me because he parked wrong? This is outrageous. Ms. Garcia filled out the form meticulously. Citation for misuse of services, harassment, and public disturbance $150 per incident, plus fees. Neighbors reacted variably, some shocked, others relieved. Mr. Thompson gripped his mug tighter. Mrs. Wilson smiled faintly. Susan insisted on her contributions. I pull weeds at dawn, organize photo days, collect stray litter. I'm the only one who truly cares. Ms. Garcia's voice softened. Your passion matters, but it can't justify harming others. Rules protect everyone, even rule lovers. For a fleeting second, Susan's rigid posture faltered, revealing exhaustion beneath her armor. The tow departed empty. Susan grabbed the pink slip, vowing an appeal, then hissed at me. Savor this, your renovations will come under scrutiny soon. Her door slammed, echoing like thunder. The crowd dispersed in whispers. Sarah leaned on me. You were the steady one. Ms. Garcia suggested I volunteer for community events. We have plenty of enforcers. We need mediators like you. As dusk settled, the lake turned copper, and peace seemed possible. But later, a knock brought Laura, the auditor. Emergency report of unapproved garage build and business ops. Susan watched from afar. Inspection revealed nothing, just shelves for holiday decor and tools. Unfounded. Susan confronted me afterward, voice brittle. You're making me the monster with your calm facade and that dog everyone adores. Our aim is harmony, I said. She retorted, harmony is what weak people call surrender. Yet her trembling jaw hinted at deeper vulnerabilities, loneliness, perhaps, or fear of chaos. An email notified of her appeal and my alleged hostility. Morning revealed vandalism. Move keyed into my truck's paint. We documented, reported. Susan feigned innocence. Oh dear, what happened? I responded, justice will sort it. The hearing loomed, packed with tension. Susan defended her zeal. I stressed mutual respect. Alex burst in with app footage, Susan's SUV striking the sign. Denials crumbled. Alex admitted complicity under her pressure. Outside, anger brewed. Mrs. Wilson advocated listening. Processes outlined. Fines upheld. Fake notices appeared. Susan's handiwork, retracted hastily. She apologized at my door. I was cornered. Wrong. Raw honesty. A splash signaled crisis. Alex trapped on the dock. We rescued amid sparking wires. Sabotage revealed, not Susan. Final hearing. Admissions, fines, suspension. No exile. Susan thanked me for believing in change. Muffins promised for cleanup. The lakeside relief. Rules structure, kindness unites. Willow Lake healed, bonds reforged. What do you think? Share in the comments, especially on violence and injustice in daily life. Take a stand. How should communities handle bullies and rebuild trust? Your views matter.